Chair, we do have a quorum if you'd like to begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the MAG Active Transportation Committee. As a reminder, please turn your mics on and clearly state your name before speaking to ensure that members of the audience can hear you. And please mute your mics when not speaking to eliminate any feedback noise. Because this is a virtual meeting, a roll call vote will be taken for each action item on the agenda. As a reminder, phone-only attendees will need to press *6 to unmute themselves. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin roll call by last name. Grant Anderson.
Here.
Stephanie Bubenheim.
Here.
Stephen Chang.
Here.
Thank you. Susan Conclu.
Here.
Stephen Esther. John Beltrain as proxy for Brandon Forey.
Here.
Thank you. Tiffany Halperin. Tara Harmon.
Present.
Thank you. Reed Kempton.
Here.
Daniel Loftus.
Here.
Thank you. Jose Macias.
Present.
Elaine Mariol.
Present.
Christine McMurdy.
Here.
Thank you. Mark Millstone.
Here.
Sasha Petito.
Here.
Randy Proch.
Here.
Earl Ratledge. Amy Rebinar.
Here.
Patrick Sage.
Here.
Kelsey Shatnick.
Here.
Ward Stanford.
Here.
Thank you. Garrett Topham.
Here.
Chase Wallman.
Here.
Justin Weldy. Marty Zeke.
Here.
And Chair Mariel Brown.
Here.
Thank you. And we have a quorum. And one more, I'm sorry, is anyone here that I did not call?
Yes, this is Stephen Esther with the town of Queen Creek. I am here. I was having trouble connecting.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
With the town of Paradise Valley.
Thank you. And I know that Allison Feliz said she couldn't make the meeting, so I did not call her name. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kay. So item number 2 on the agenda, call to the audience. An opportunity for public comment on the agenda was provided ahead of the meeting. On June 9th, 2023, changes were made to the process for accepting and sharing written comments from members of the public not attending in person or when a virtual only meeting is held. Comments must be received at least 2 hours prior to the posted start time for the meeting and are now provided to the committee in advance of the meeting for consideration. Since we did receive one comment online prior to the change on June 9th, it will be read aloud per the prior policy. Kay, will you please read the comment received prior to the change?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We did receive one comment, and this is from Dennis Truffin from the City of Phoenix. And Dennis writes, first, thank you to everyone for your hard work on the Active Transportation Committee. I am a supporter of the light rail and other public transportation methods, as building more lanes on the freeways won't solve much of the congestion over time. The biggest issue I see with the light rail is the travel time overall. There needs to be more right-of-way for light rail. I also believe we need to have cities provide incentives to those who want to build commercial and residential near the light rail stations, as exists can become thriving destinations or a short walk from home for riders. End of message.
Thank you. So on to item number 3, Kay Bork, Transportation Planning Project Manager, will provide a report to the Active Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'd actually like to report out on several changes to the Active Transportation Committee. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank past Chair Susan Conclu for her leadership as Chair of the Active Transportation Committee. Her term did expire on June 30th of 2023. And with that, Meg proceeded with the process, the appointment process for Chair and Vice Chair of the committee. And with that, I'd like to welcome the new chair, Mariel Brown with the City of Phoenix, and Vice Chair Patrick Sage with the City of Glendale. And I'd also like to welcome 2 new members of the Active Transportation Committee, and that is Marty Zeke, who represents Valley Metro, and then Amy Rebinar, who represents the town of Paradise Valley. And the last item I'd like to report out on is that Prop 400 enabling legislation has passed and has been signed by the governor. And if you have questions, you are more than welcome to contact Audra Kessler-Thomas or John Bolin at MAG. And with that, that concludes my staff report.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the welcome. So that takes us to item number 4, approval of consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Item 4A, approval of the April 18th, 2023 meeting minutes, and 4B, approval of the June 5th, 2023 Joint Active Transportation and Transit Committee meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Anderson, I so approve. I so move, excuse me.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion from Anderson.
Kempton, I'll second it.
Okay, great. So we have a second from Kempton. Kay will do a roll call vote of all members participating, and please indicate how you vote.
Thank you, Chair. I will do roll call. Grant Anderson,
Aye.
Stephanie Bubenheim,
Aye.
Stephen Chang,
Aye.
Susan thank you, sorry. Susan Conclu,
Aye.
Stephen Esther.
Aye.
John Beltrain,
Aye.
Tara Harmon,
Aye.
Reed Kempton,
Aye.
Daniel Loftus,
Aye.
Jose Macias,
Aye.
Elaine Mariol,
Aye.
Christine McMurdy,
Aye.
Mark Millstone,
Aye.
Sasha Petito,
Aye.
Randy Proch,
Aye.
Amy Rebinar,
Aye.
Patrick Sage,
Aye.
Kelsey Shatnick,
Aye.
Ward Stanford,
Aye.
Garrett Topham,
Aye.
Chase Wallman,
Aye.
Justin Weldy,
Aye.
Marty Zeke,
Aye.
and Chair Mariel Brown.
Aye.
Thank you, and the motion passes.
Right, great. So the motion passes, and that takes us to the next item on the agenda. Item 5, scope modification request, Town of Paradise Valley, Mockingbird Lane improvements, Lincoln to McDonald Lane. And this item will be presented by Kay Bork, MAG Transportation Planning Project Manager, and Jeremy Knapp, Town of Paradise Valley. And this action is on the, this item is on the agenda for action.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry. This is Kay. Sorry, I'd like to just introduce you, Jeremy, and introduce the agenda item. As Chair said, this item is a scope modification request from the town of Paradise Valley. And is to modify the Mockingbird Lane improvements from Lincoln Drive to McDonald Drive. The MAG federal programming guidelines require that modifications are reviewed and recommended for approval by the modal technical committees for where the project was first programmed. And this project was awarded funding as part of the 2019 Active Transportation Call for Projects. The town is requesting the scope modification in order to address public feedback as well as Planning Commission and Town Council direction. This request will be heard at the Transportation Review Committee and Management Committee with final approval and action at Regional Council. Jeremy Knapp with the town of Paradise Valley is here to present the town's scope modification request, and Patrick Stone and I are also available to answer any questions. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Chair Brown, and good afternoon, members of the Active Transportation Committee. Thank you for your time today to consider this request to modify the project scope for the town's Mockingbird Lane, Lincoln Drive to Mockingbird Drive project. Next slide. The project limits, which have not changed with the revised scope, includes this half-mile stretch of the north-south alignment of Mockingbird Lane between Lincoln Drive and McDonald Drive. Currently, the roadway has one travel lane in each direction, striped shoulders, but not full-width bike lanes, and a sidewalk on the west side of the roadway. All the properties adjacent to the project in this corridor are single-family residential. Nearby are places of worship, a resort, and a public elementary school. Mockingbird Lane is a minor arterial, which essentially begins at McDonald Drive, but continues north for approximately 2 miles, then heads west and terminates at Tatum Boulevard. This corridor specifically has a high number of recreational bicyclists, and the stretch of Mockingbird Lane just north of Lincoln Drive was reconstructed in 2021 and includes bike lanes. Next slide. Today's request for project scope change includes 3 main aspects. First is focusing on improving existing pedestrian facilities in the corridor in lieu of adding new or more facilities. Second is to introduce traffic calming measures for the pedestrians that do use the existing facilities. And third is to realign the project schedule into its original fiscal year 24 obligation. The original project scope included new sidewalk on the east side of the road, bike lanes, ADA improvements to an existing sidewalk on the west side of the road, new curb and gutter, and some low water crossings. The original cost estimate in 2019 was for $1.3 million. The new project scope, currently at 95% design, includes full width bike lanes for the corridor, ADA improvements to the existing west side sidewalk, new curb and gutter, and low water crossings. In addition, we've done some narrowing of roadway lanes. We've added a mini roundabout and some speed signs to address concerns for speeding in the corridor. To summarize, the main difference is to no longer include the proposed sidewalk on the east side of the road, to narrow the roadway lanes to 10 feet, and add a mini roundabout at Valley Vista and add speed signs along the corridor. Another thing of note is since the project was originally approved in 2019, there have been significant price increases for construction costs, and the town does intend to request closeout funding in fiscal year 24. The updated cost estimate is $3.2 million. Here's a plan view of the proposed mini roundabout at the intersection of Mockingbird Lane and Valley Vista to help with traffic calming in the area. This particular corridor is limited with right-of-way width, and without acquiring new right-of-way, a mini roundabout is the only option that we had at this particular intersection. The town prides itself on having robust public discourse for all aspects of its local governance. Specifically for CIP projects, public outreach often includes multiple public meetings and often one-on-one meetings with residents who own property adjacent to the town's projects. For this project, the town held 3 public meetings, virtually and in person, presented the project to the Planning Commission and took public comment, as well as to Town Council. Residents requested the town focus on adding traffic calming measures and improving the existing pedestrian network, the west side sidewalk and bike lanes, in lieu of adding an additional sidewalk on the east side of the road, which would impact those property owners on the east side of the road. Additionally, the town's engineering division, which manages its capital projects, had significant staff turnover in a very short period of time, near the 60% design of this project. So unfortunately, this caused some projects to slow down or even halt as new staff came aboard and familiarized themselves with the projects, meaning the town was unable to finish design per the request for fiscal year 23 closeout funds. The current project schedules as shown, we received environmental clearance in June of this year. We've delivered 95% plans to ADOT in July and are expecting a comment resolution in September. We also delivered 95% plans to utilities for relocation purposes and conflict review. By removing the east side sidewalk, we've significantly reduced the utility relocations necessary for this job. In October, we'll submit 100% plans to ADOT. We're currently working on TCE acquisitions for driveway tie-ins and sidewalk at 7 locations with 6 different property owners. We expect the utility relocations to be complete by January of 24. Project authorization would follow in February of 24, with the project being bid through ADOT. And then we're planning to phase construction when school gets out, the nearby school gets out, and through beginning in June to maximize the summer if we can. With that, the town respectfully requests approval by the MAG Active Transportation Committee to recommend approval of the summarized scope modifications, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Anderson, I have a question. I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was waiting for the capability. Okay, you eliminated the sidewalk on the east side, so you could put one on the west side. The people that are on the east side, do they not need a sidewalk to get where they'd like to walk to?
Chair, Committee Member Anderson, the residents on the east side of the road did not request that a sidewalk be placed across the frontage of their property. It seems like many of the residents along this corridor, specifically on that side of the road, maybe aren't using the sidewalk.
Are the residents going to change, you think?
I don't know the answer to that, potentially.
Madam Chair, Justin with Fountain Hills, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Jeremy, is this an in-house design or do you have a consultant doing this design work?
The town is utilizing a consultant to do the design work.
Thank you.
Susan Conclu. Okay.
Thank you. It looks like you have continuous existing sidewalk on the west side. So is that going to be changing in width or anything, or just remaining as it is now?
The existing continuous sidewalk on the west side will be brought into ADA compliance. There are some curbs and some grading that will change with the roadway project. And so the existing west side sidewalk will be adjusted to address that change in elevation, but maintain ADA accessibility requirements.
Okay, great. And then you talked about speed signs. Were you saying speed meaning speed feedback signs, or is it something different?
No, you're correct. Speed feedback signs.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional comments or questions for MAG or town staff before we entertain a motion?
Anderson, I have another question. It's about the east side sidewalk. So let's say somebody wanted to use the sidewalk. Is there any provision for crossing of the road so they could utilize a walking path?
Along this corridor, there are ramps to cross from the east side to the west side at McDonald, as well as Lincoln. And there will be at the intersection of Valley Vista, which is as close as we could get to mid-block.
Your traffic calming is just the mini roundabout?
It's a combination of the mini roundabout, the narrowing of the roadway lanes, and then the speed feedback signs.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have one follow-up question, please.
Right?
Jeremy, do you have any traffic counts since the original design began, or do you have those numbers for this area?
Chair and Member Weldy, my initial involvement in this project began in February of this year. I don't have any traffic numbers since February of this year. I'd have to go back and look to see if we took traffic numbers at the beginning of the project.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Christine from Goodyear.
All right, Christine, go ahead.
Jeremy, I guess I'm a little concerned about that lack of sidewalk on the one side too. Is there a cost issue involved with just going ahead and putting it in anyway? Is it going to cause major disruption? It's just the kind of thing that I can say in Goodyear, we regret sometimes some of these decisions to wait for development to occur before putting in a sidewalk, since we're all trying to be a little more thoughtful about pedestrian movement. So I'm just curious, why not put it in anyway?
Chair, Member McDurdy, so this is not a cost concern. This is a discussion that we had between town residents, specifically residents in this corridor, our planning commission and town council. In the town of Paradise Valley, our minor arterials have optional sidewalk on both sides of the road, and most of our minor arterials only have sidewalks on one side of the road in order to try and preserve some type of rural community feel, which is what our residents are looking for.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any additional comments or questions from the committee?
Anderson, one more.
All right, go ahead, Member Anderson.
Let's say this motion failed. What would Paradise Valley do?
If this motion failed, I would assume that staff would recommend going back to town council and see if they want to proceed with the project.
All right, thank you. So do we have, or is there a motion to recommend approval?
This is Mark Millstone. I will motion to approve the recommendation.
Great. Thank you, Member Millstone. Is there a second?
I second. Chase Wallman.
All right. Thank you, Member Wallman. Kay, will you do a roll call vote of all members participating? And please indicate how you vote.
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin roll call. Grant Anderson,
No.
Stephanie Bubenheim,
Yes.
Stephen Chang,
Aye.
Susan Conklu,
Aye.
Stephen Esther,
Aye.
John Beltrain,
Aye.
Tara Harmon,
Aye.
Reed Kempton, I'll come back. Daniel Loftus,
Yay.
Jose Macias. I think you motioned yes. Could you restate?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much. Elaine Mariot,
Abstain. Thanks.
Thanks. Christine McMurdy,
Abstain.
Mark Millstone,
Aye.
Sasha Petito,
Yes.
Randy Proch,
Aye.
Amy Rebinar,
Aye.
Patrick Sage,
Aye.
Kelsey Shatnick,
Aye.
Ward Stanford,
Well, if I could unmute, I would say aye.
thank you. Garrett Topham,
No.
Chase Wallman,
Aye.
Justin Weldy,
Aye.
Marty Zeke,
Aye.
and Chair Mariel Brown.
Aye.
And is there anyone present who I did not call or I did not capture their vote?
I'm not sure you captured mine. This is Reed Kempton. Was pushing the space bar and it did not unmute.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
With
Thank you, Chair. The motion does pass.
Okay, thank you, Kay. The motion passes. So that takes us to item 6, which is a second project deferral request from the City of Tempe. This item will be presented by Kay Bork, MAG Transportation Planning Project Manager, and Chase Wallman, Principal Planner for City of Tempe. This item is on the agenda for action.
Thank you, Chair. As stated, this is a second project deferral request from the City of Tempe for the Scottsdale Road Bike Lane Continuation Project from Curry to Continental. This project was awarded funds as part of the 2017 Regional Competitive Programs for Active Transportation Call for Projects. MAG federal programming guidelines permit the sponsor agency to defer a project one time without justification. However, if the sponsor agency wishes to defer a project for a second time, an appeal process is required, which includes presentations through the MAG committee process. The member agency presentation is required to address the following. There's an identification and an explanation of specific problems that are beyond the control of the agency other than financial issues. Demonstration of financial commitment to the project. A revised schedule and plan that addresses the specific issues identified. And if a project has been previously deferred, a demonstration that the previous cause of delay or an explanation of how the revised approach will address the problems causing that delay. Chase Wallman with the City of Tempe will present the city's second project deferral request, and Patrick Stone and I are also available to answer any questions. With that, I would like to turn it over to Chase Wallman. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Kay. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the MAG Active Transportation Committee. As Kay said, I'm Chase Wallman, Principal Planner with the City of Tempe. And thank you for the opportunity today to present Tempe's second deferral request of our Scottsdale Road Bike Lane Continuation Curry to Continental project. Next slide, please. To get everyone oriented where this project is within the region, this project's located in North Tempe along Scottsdale Road. The south terminus of the project is at Curry Road, and then it spans about 1.25 miles north to Continental Drive or Roosevelt Street, which is our border with the city of Scottsdale. This project is along Scottsdale Road, which is a 7-lane arterial road. It currently features 8-foot sidewalks on both sides, 3 southbound travel lanes, 3 northbound travel lanes, as well as a 2-way left turn lane, which is broken up periodically by landscape medians. Next slide, please. So this slide is showing the proposed improvements for the project. So as I said, it's about 1.25 miles total length is our corridor, and we're proposing both dedicated bike facilities as well as pedestrian improvements along the corridor. Some of those examples include protected bike lanes, ADA accessibility improvements, which include ADA or directional ramps, as well as driveway wraparounds at the commercial driveways. There will be a pavement preservation project along the corridor. We will also be supplementing the existing lighting so that we're meeting all of our minimum illuminance levels that we need on the street, and then increased landscaping as well. Next slide, please. So this project is not only significant for the city of Tempe, but significant for the region as a whole. We're excited to be piloting protected bike lanes along this corridor. We have short segments where we had protected bike lanes before, but this is really our first pilot for a continuous corridor of protected bike lanes. So that's very significant for us to test that out and see how that operates. In addition, to the north, as I said, the project connects directly to the city of Scottsdale. City of Scottsdale already has existing bike lanes, so this would continue those existing bike lanes, which continue north into the city of Scottsdale and that currently terminate around Thomas Road. In addition to the south, the project connects to existing bike lanes at Curry, and these are in direct, these bike lanes directly connect to two regional off-street pathways. To the west, we have the regional Crosscut Canal Path. And then to the east, we have the Indian Bend Wash Path, which has regional connections to city of Scottsdale. And it's identified in our long-range plan and our transportation master plan locally, but then it's also identified regionally in the MAG active transportation plan as a tier 1 corridor. Next slide, please. So this project was originally programmed for construction in FY21. We kicked off the design in 2020 and requested our first deferral from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 23, which was approved April of 2021. We held our first round of public meetings in November. Originally, what we were proposing were standard bike lanes along the corridor, which reduced the width of the travel lanes, as well as had some extensive modifications to our existing medians. It was evident from that public outreach, from that first round of public meetings, that there was more than just a standard bike lane desired. There was a request to add buffer, not only a buffer beside the standard bike lane, but also to have additional protection since it is an arterial road. As well as there was additional sensitivities about extensive modifications to the mature landscaping in the existing landscape medians. So with that, in order to achieve the project's intent, as well as provide for those ADA accessibility improvements like the driveway wraparounds, we identified additional right-of-way that would be needed that was not originally scoped with the project. So we completed our 30% design and had that new right-of-way scope. And we started the right-of-way process, which included getting appraisal reports, getting appraisals, title reports, and beginning negotiation with property owners to acquire all the right-of-way, as well as TCEs needed for the project. We finished the design, 60% design, in August 2022, as we were concurrently working on all the right-of-way tasks. And then we to date have finished the 100% design, received our environmental clearance, and will soon in September anticipate our utility clearance. So the only thing holding up this project at this point now is getting the needed right-of-way clearance. Next slide, please. So that brings us to today's deferral request. We're requesting to move the project's construction from FY23 to FY24, and this will allow us the necessary time to complete all the required right-of-way tasks. Again, all the design to date and other utility clearance soon to be completed. So this is really the last remaining task for us to complete before we are able to obligate the project and get the project bid for construction. Next slide, please. The city does remain committed to this project. We continue to reappropriate all of the local match and contingency funding for the project. In addition, with that expanded right-of-way scope, we have identified the additional funding necessary for the right-of-way acquisition to make the improvements to the project, as well as having project management staff assigned through the completion of the project. Next slide, please. So our new proposed schedule, as I said, We have completed our final plan specifications and estimates for the project. We anticipate that utility clearance in September of 2023. We continue to acquire the right-of-way needed and finishing the negotiations with property owners. So we anticipate the right-of-way clearance coming in February of 2024. With that schedule, we would anticipate a notice to proceed for our contractor in September of 2024 and ending construction in the summer of 2025. Next slide, please. To reiterate our request, we're asking your consideration to move this project's construction from FY23 to FY24. And then I welcome any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for MAG or city staff before we entertain a motion? And it looks like Susan, or
Oh, sorry. I thought Grant was going to go first.
I saw your hand first, Susan.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you, Chase. I anxiously await this project since I used to commute through this area, and I think the improvements will be really great. Did you mention where you're needing the right of way? Is it throughout the length of the project, right of way or easements, or is it just in different locations throughout?
Yeah, it's kind of sporadic throughout the corridor. There's about 10 properties that we needed right away or TCEs from. So we're going through that process now. It kind of stretches along the corridor, both east and west sides of the street.
Okay, thank you.
And they are generally, it's just the frontage. We're not talking about the whole property. So it's generally anywhere from like 3 to 5 feet of right away.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anderson, question.
Go ahead, Member Anderson.
Thank you. You didn't describe how the road itself is going to change with the need for the new right-of-way. You have 3 lanes in each direction now. Are you changing the road configuration, or are you buying right-of-way to put in a bike path outside the existing roadway?
Thank you, Chair Member Anderson. The project, the right-of-way does vary throughout the corridor. We are not proposing to reduce the travel lanes, the number of lanes, or having the 2-way left turn lane and medians. What we are reducing are some lane widths in the area to fit in the 6-foot bike lane and 2-foot buffer space with the protection. The additional right-of-way is mostly needed in areas to accommodate driveway wraparounds.
Thank you. So you have somewhere around 12 to 14 foot lanes, and you're just going to reduce them enough to accommodate the additional 8 feet for the bike lane.
Correct. Yeah, it'll be a combination of reducing the lane widths. Some of them are, this picture shows, I think, a good perspective of the outside curb lane being wider. So again, it does vary, but yeah, we are doing that to accomplish we're not reducing the number of lanes, but reducing the width where we can, and when additional right-of-way is needed, we are looking to acquire that for the remaining ADA improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other additional questions or comments for MAG or city staff?
Marielle, this is Christine from Goodyear. Chase, this is just a kind of a vanity question. When you're done with this, we'd really love to see how you went through it, the design and then the construction process. If there's a way to present that to the committee, this is going to be a very interesting project. So congrats, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results.
Yeah, I would be happy to. I've been working on the project since the beginning, so I'm sure we'll have some interesting stories and maybe do a cool time-lapse video or photos or something. Lessons learned, definitely.
Drones, think about drones.
Oh yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Garrett Topham Mesa. I got a question. I'm curious, you said 8 feet and that's going to include protection, Chase? Or the buffer?
Yes, sorry, Chair, Member Topham, the lane width, the bike lane width would be 6 feet with a 2-foot buffer, and that would include protection within the 2-foot buffer.
I was just curious if there's been provisions to keep that clean.
That is, yes, that's something that we talked about in the beginning. As soon as the project transitioned from a standard bike lane project to having the protected bike lanes. It's a reason why we're piloting it here as well, looking to potentially include this elsewhere along the city. So we've been looking at sweeper modifications and sweeper availability to get estimates for what a specialized sweeper might look like or how it otherwise can be accommodated. The product that we're proposing with this project, we should be able to use the sweepers on them as well, that they're robust enough. But it is something that we're continuing to discuss with our right-of-way maintenance team before the project actually gets implemented. And truthfully, it will be a pilot for us.
Thank you, Chase. Yeah, that's what's limiting us to having to keep things at 8 feet. So I appreciate presentation on this some later point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments or questions? All right. Is there a motion to recommend approval?
This is Christine McMurdy. I move to approve.
All right.
Justin with Fountain Hills, second.
All right. We have a first and second. So, Kay, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin roll call. Grant Anderson,
Yes.
Stephanie Bubenheim,
Aye.
Stephen Chang,
Aye.
Susan Conklu,
Aye.
Stephen Esther,
Aye.
John Beltrain,
Aye.
Tara Harmon,
Aye.
Reed Kempton,
Aye.
Daniel Loftus,
Aye.
Jose Macias, okay, I can come back. Elaine Mariel,
Abstain.
Christine McMurdy,
Aye.
Mark Millstone,
Aye.
Sasha Petito,
Aye.
Randy Proch,
Aye.
Amy Revenar,
Aye.
Patrick Sage,
Aye.
Kelsey Chatnick,
Aye.
Ward Stanford,
Aye.
Garrett Topham,
Aye.
Chase Wallman,
Aye.
Justin Weldy,
Aye.
Marty Zeke,
Aye.
Chair Brown,
Aye.
and Jose Macias. And not hearing a response. The motion does pass.
Great. Thank you, Kay. And thank you, Tempe. So that takes us to the 7th item on the agenda today, a third deferral request from the City of Phoenix for the Van Buren Street project. So this will be presented by Kay Bork and Leticia Vargas, Special Projects Administrator, City of Phoenix. This item is on the agenda for action, so over to you, Kay.
Thank you, Chair. This item is on the agenda for committee action, and it's a third deferral request from the City of Phoenix for Van Buren Street, 7th Street to 24th Street project. This project was awarded funding as part of the 2015 Regional Competitive Programs Active Transportation Call for Projects. This is the second time the committee has heard a third deferral request. As detailed in the transmittal summary, the first project deferral was approved October 2019, and the second project deferral was approved in February of 2022. The MEG federal programming guidelines permit the sponsor agency to defer a project one time without justification, and additional deferrals require the sponsor to successfully complete an appeals process through the committees. The committee or the member agency presentation is required to address the following: the identification and explanation of a specific problem or issue that is beyond the control of the agency other than financial, demonstration of financial commitment to the project, a revised schedule and plan that addresses the specific issue identified, and if a project has been previously deferred, demonstration that the previous cause of the delay has been addressed, or an explanation of how that issue will be addressed. Letitia Vargas with the City of Phoenix is here to present the city's third deferral request. And Patrick Stone and I are also available to answer any questions. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Letitia.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Active Transportation Committee. My name is Leticia Vargas, and I am the Special Projects Administrator with the City of Phoenix Street Transportation Department. Thank you so much for allowing us to present on a very important pedestrian safety and streetscape project along the Van Buren corridor from 7th Street to 24th Street. The city truly appreciates this opportunity to request a third deferral for this important corridor that has a rich history and really is important to many Phoenicians and Arizonans alike. Next slide. So let's jump into our project area. Van Buren, as we know it today, was constructed in and around 1936. Our project area goes from 7th Street on the east to 24th Street, 7th Street on the west to 24th Street on the east. Well, we've had a lot of localized improvements over the years, mostly utility replacements, new utility construction, and as well as pavement rehab work. The overall corridor has remained intact with the exception of key historical structures, mostly defined by iconic street signs, motel signs that are still there today. A lot of the remnant hotel courts and automotive corridors of the 1940s still exist along this stretch. Currently, our roadway consists of 2 lanes in each direction. We have 12-foot wide lanes on the outer lanes and 11-foot lanes on the inner lanes. We also have a 10-foot wide continuous left turn lane in the middle. There are existing sidewalks on both the north and south side of the street, anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. The existing Van Buren right-of-way is generally 80 feet wide. If you compare that to a modern day arterial with 5 lanes of traffic, we'd really need more like 100 feet of right-of-way. So what that tells us is that we're really tight in terms of right-of-way. In fact, there are several buildings along this corridor that directly access onto the public right-of-way. As you can see on this exhibit, Van Buren provides direct connection to larger arterials like 7th Street, 16th Street, and 24th Street. Van Buren is also very popular public transit route. Line 3 goes down our Van Buren, and we experience about 1,200 average daily weekday boarding. So that's a lot of people that are walking on Van Buren to catch the bus. Next slide, please. So based on input over a series of community outreach efforts, today our project scope consists of this. We're going to be building a 2-mile corridor with pedestrian safety and landscape improvements. We're also looking to update all of our ADA sidewalks and ramps. We're looking to add 2 new hot crossings where 2-stage crossings exist currently at 16th Street and 23rd Street. We're also going to be adding pedestrian level lighting along the corridor, pedestrian refuge median islands as well, landscaping and shade where appropriate and possible, And we're also going to be redesigning our traffic signals. Next slide, please. To understand where you're going, you really need to evaluate where you've been. And that's why this project context slide is so important to share with this group. Specifically for the project understanding for our rich history, the story behind it, and the community demographics is especially to point out. For those of you that didn't know this, Van Buren was part of the original State Route 60 highway system. It literally served as a cross-country funnel that collected traffic between the Mexican border and Route 66, carrying traffic 24/7 on this highway in the 1940s before the interstate was built. Another noteworthy point to make is redlining in the 1930s was a very common practice. In fact, Van Buren was a dividing line for this area. The map to the right shows the social divide that Van Buren created in the 1930s, literally preventing residents, namely minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, from assessing home loans in the area. In fact, the first African-American resident to purchase a home north of Van Buren was Lincoln Ragsdale in 1953. Just south of our project corridor is one of the city's first city park, East Lake Park, and the East Lake neighborhood, which is located near Jefferson Street and 16th Street, which would be the center to the African-American community and the civil rights movement in Phoenix. Our former esteemed Councilman Calvin C. Good, who served on our Phoenix City Council for 22 years, lived in the East Lake neighborhood from 1955 until he passed in 2020. Along this corridor, today, the demographics of our project still continues to house predominantly disadvantaged communities. In fact, 48.6% are Hispanic, 10.6% are African-American, 1.2% are Native, 3.7% are Asian, with 32.6% white. Next slide, please. Today, we have also ongoing investments in the Choice Neighborhood Community Affordable Housing Program, opportunities in the Edison East Lake communities, which essentially surrounds our project corridor. In fact, in 2018, the city received $30 million in federal funds through a Choice Grant Award to add additional public housing to aging infrastructure around our project. In 2023, the city continues to deliver on this promise to invest and expand low-income housing in the surrounding area. Next slide, please. So then let's get into our project timeline and see what has happened over the last couple of years. So in 2015, the city of Phoenix initiated a Reinvent Phoenix plan. A plan that came directly out of that effort was the East Lake Garfield transit-oriented plan, which proposed the Van Buren Street as a complete street. As a result of that, our department, the Street Transportation Department, initiated a pre-design effort. With that effort, we had 2 public processes. As a result of that, the city of Phoenix applied for a transportation alternative grant for Van Buren, and it was a bicycle pedestrian corridor project. The project was awarded $2.3 million in December of 2015. We kicked off our project in 2017, about November timeframe. We went through project delivery efforts, received our NEPA clearance in July of 2019. It was then that the city made a conscious decision to do a first deferral in October, and that was mainly due to public input and political climate changes. In 2020, the city of Phoenix initiated a community outreach process as a direct result. What we found was that we had a lot of differing opinions in that time, and the meetings that were held were in March and August of that year. At that point, the city decided to pause the project to reconsider the scope and the sentiment of the community and really engage in a public engagement process. Next slide, please. In 2021, an alternate project concept was created with commitment for two distinct projects. This was our Van Buren Street as we know it today, 7th Street to 24th Street, and a parallel bike project on Via Fillmore, a bike boulevard project about a quarter mile north of this particular corridor. We then kicked off a community outreach process in April, and we called this a listening opportunity. In 2022, we requested a second deferral project, and that was approved through our regional council in February of that year. At that point, we were at about 30% design. We then went back to the public in April of that year to share what we had heard at our listening opportunity. We also did an assessment of our right-of-way at that point, and we determined that we had a need of about 9,700 square feet of TCEs. Now that, again, was prior to any scope changes. Our utility clearance review was also initiated in November of that year. Next slide, please. So in 2023, we are currently at 60% design, and that was completed in March, and that was an initial concept layout of 60%. We've updated and revised our right-of-way needs to identify what additional impacts we needed. We literally went from 9,100 to about 17,565 square feet of additional TCE that was needed and identified as a part of this submittal effort. We received an updated clearance for our NEPA in March of this year. We've also initiated right-of-way acquisition approval through our city council, and that was accomplished in June. All title reports have been ordered. Contacts have been made with at least 90% of our residents, and appraisals are to be expected in the next few months. Next slide, please. So where are we today? Well, as I mentioned, we are at 60% design. We are going through a final comment resolution, and we're expecting a final draft of those 60% to be in the summer or September of this year. Our next public outreach is planned in the fall of this year, 2023. Our design is set to be complete in the winter of 2023. Right-of-way and utility clearance is expected in winter of 2024. Construction is planned for spring of 2025. Our estimated construction estimate is nearly $7 million. Next slide, please. So I want to point out some items that were outside of our control. And you can see that the public input process and the public process and the need for the numerous public processes impact our project delivery. Keep in mind, we had over 8 public meetings in this project alone, and that's not typical for an average project. But the city remained committed to work with our elected officials and the community groups to listen and engage, to be sensitive to the community at large. It was in 2021, if you recall, that we had the listening opportunity to really try to make sure we understood exactly what the community wanted. At that point, we were notified that safety was the key priority for this community. In fact, they felt inadequate street crossings were a major concern for the residents. For that reason, we've updated all of our signals along this corridor and have included 2 new pops to address the safety concerns. Final design of the signals also impacted parcels list. Next slide, please. Another item outside of our control are the right-of-way constraints. As I mentioned at the beginning, Van Buren Street currently is a 5-lane arterial with essentially 80 feet of right-of-way. At a 30% design, without any of the scope additions, we identified 9,100 square feet of TCEs to accomplish the scope that was identified at 30%. After 60%, we realized that our TCEs nearly doubled to 17,800 square feet of TCEs. The right-of-way constraints essentially have been our critical path in this project, and they played a huge role in the project delivery, which is what we have aimed to get back on track. Next slide, please. So here's a summary of the current deferral request. The city of Phoenix requested a first deferral to allow for community input and public processes to happen, and that was achieved by regional council in October of 2019. The city of Phoenix requested a second deferral for scope changes to respond to the community feedback and focus on pedestrian safety, and that was approved in regional council in February of 2022. The city of Phoenix is now requesting a third deferral to realign the project schedule to address federal clearances and utilities in right-of-way based on the impacts of the revised scope through the public process. Next slide, please. The city is committed to complete this project. That is, we are committed to fulfill a commitment made to deliver a pedestrian safety and enhancement project on Van Buren from 7th Street to 24th Street. We're committed to fund the Van Buren project through local participation identified and committed through the city's capital improvement program. We are committed to allocate adequate staff resources to the completion of this project. And separate, but just as important, we're committed to evaluating a parallel bike boulevard project that is about a quarter mile north of our project. Again, currently in design, but separate from this project. Next slide, please. Here's our funding breakdown. Safety components total about 2.9 million. Streetscape components are about 1.6 million. Upgrading our traffic signals are about 2 million. Our total estimated cost is 6.6 million, nearly the 7 million that I've mentioned earlier in this presentation. Next slide, please. So here's a summary of our project schedule. With the comment resolution expected to happen in the next month or so, we will be at 60% full design, September of 2023. Utility clearances are expected in November of 2023. 100% design is expected in December of 2023. Our right-of-way clearance is expected in September of 2024. Environmental clearance has already been achieved as of March of this year, but because of the PISA requirement, which is a technical report that's required, we'll need to do a refresh, and we're targeting January of 2025 to do that. We're targeting obligation for construction in February of 2025, and we're expected to go to construction in spring, summer of 2025. Next slide, please. And with that, I'd like to respectfully request approval by the MAG Active Transportation Committee for a third deferral request of the Van Buren project, 7th Street to 24th Street. And I am available to answer any questions if you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Leticia. Are there any comments or questions for MAG or city staff before we entertain a motion?
Madam Chair, Justin from Fountain Hills with a question.
Go ahead, Justin.
Leticia, do you anticipate that you will be asking for additional funding for this project as it's nearing time to start on it? Or does the city of Phoenix already have obligated funds, or will it be obligated with each budget process moving forward?
Currently, Madam Chair and Member Justin, currently we are programmed, this project is fully programmed with city funds. And so at this time, we're only requesting for a third deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Conclu.
Thank you. Could you remind me how wide the sidewalks will be?
Yes, yes, Member and Madam Chair. The sidewalks are currently 4 to 5 feet. We are going to go to our standard, which will be 5 feet wide. There are areas where they are larger, but we will be able to fit in 5 feet throughout the corridor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, are there any additional comments or questions before we entertain a motion? All right, well, is there a motion to recommend?
I move approval. I move that we approve this project, this change. Anderson.
Second from Fountain Hills.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to recommend approval from Anderson and a second from Fountain Hills. So, Kay, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin roll call. Grant Anderson,
Aye.
Stephanie Bubenheim,
Aye.
Stephen Chang, Susan Conclu,
Aye.
Stephen Esther.
Aye.
Thank you. John Beltran,
Aye.
Tara Harmon,
Aye.
Reed Kempton,
Aye.
Daniel Loftus.
Aye.
Let's see, Jose Macias, Elaine Mariel,
Abstain.
Christine McMurdy,
Aye.
Mark Millstone,
Aye.
Sasha Pachito,
Aye.
Randy Proch,
Aye.
Amy Rebinar.
Aye.
Thank you. Patrick Sage,
Aye.
Kelsey Shatnick,
Aye.
Ward Stanford,
Aye.
Garrett Topham,
Aye.
Chase Wallman,
Aye.
Justin Weldy,
Aye.
Marty Zeke,
Aye.
Chair Mariel Brown.
Aye.
And is there anyone present who I did not capture their vote? Okay, with that, the motion passes.
Great. Thank you, Kay. And thank you to the City of Phoenix. Great. Item number 8 on the agenda is the fiscal year 2024 MAG Design Assistance Prioritized Project Ranking. This item will be presented by Kay Bork, and this item is on the agenda for action. So over to you, Kay.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Active Transportation Committee. I'll be presenting the MAG fiscal year 2024 Design Assistance Project Priority List. As you know, each year MAG issues a call for projects from MAG member agencies to apply for funding for preliminary engineering and design portions of an active transportation project. MAG issued the call for projects on June 1st with applications due on June 30th. We received 8 applications with requests totaling about $696,000. That's compared to the $500,000 allocated towards the design assistance program. The MAG Active Transportation Committee completed their scoring on August the 1st. And please, oh, you do have the slide, thank you. The table shows the results of the scoring and the prioritized ranking list of projects that are recommended for approval. I do want to make one note that we did have to eliminate scores from one member agency since not all of the projects that were submitted were scored. This didn't materially affect the ranking or the total scores. As you can see from the table that the top 4 projects can be fully funded, and the 5th project, which is the Scottsdale 2nd Street Neighborhood Bikeway Project, would receive partial funding. Scottsdale has the option to move forward with the design assistance funding and then make up the difference with local funds, or they would abandon the project and could request funding at closeout. If Scottsdale chooses not to accept the design assistance funds, that portion of the project would be rolled over and into closeout and become available, I believe, in this fall. Again, this item is on the agenda for information discussion and possible action to recommend approval of the prioritized ranking. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions before we entertain a motion? I just want to say that congratulations to everyone. I really enjoyed reading the projects, and there were some really great project ideas. And as always, I wish I could have given everyone 100. Great. Any other comments or questions before we entertain a motion? Okay, with that, is there a motion to recommend approval?
This is Christine in Goodyear. I move to approve.
I'll second that. Sasha and Chandler.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion from Christine and a second from Sasha. Okay, can you do the roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll do roll call. Grant Anderson,
Aye.
Stephanie Bubenheim,
Aye.
Stephen Chang.
Hi, sorry, I had technical difficulties earlier.
Okay, thank you. Susan Conklu,
Aye.
Stephen Ester,
Aye.
John Beltran,
Aye.
Tara Harmon,
Aye.
Reed Kempton,
Aye.
Daniel Loftus.
Going to abstain.
Okay. Jose Macias, Elaine Mariel,
Abstain.
thank you. Christine McMurdy,
Aye.
Mark Millstone,
Aye.
Sasha Pachito,
Aye.
Randy Proch,
Aye.
Amy Revenar,
Aye.
Patrick Sage,
Aye.
Kelsey Shatnick,
Aye.
Ward Stanford,
Aye.
Garrett Topham,
Aye.
Chase Wallman,
Aye.
Justin Weldy,
Abstain.
Marty Zeke,
Aye.
and Chair Mariel Brown.
Aye.
Thank you, and the motion passes.
All right, thank you. So that takes us to the next item on the agenda. Are there any requests for future agenda items from the committee? All right, hearing none, that takes us to the next item, updates from member agencies. Are there any updates or announcements by committee members? Susan.
Hi, thank you, Chair Brown. Some of us recently helped at the MAG annual Crossing Guard workshops, and we appreciate people that were able to help, as well as MAG staff. If you are interested next summer, please reach out to either MAG staff so they can connect you to the group. But it's a very important way to get consistent safety messages out to crossing guards. I've probably been doing it for about 10 years, but was more of a helper in the past. And then this was the first year that Scottsdale was able to host one of the workshops, the East Valley workshop at Coronado High School. So it's a really important way to make sure crossing guards are getting the same information, and it really lines up with our safe routes to school efforts that so many of us are working on. So I highly encourage all of the member agencies to help out so that we can really assist with this regional safety effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Conklu.
Madam Chair, a brief update for the town of Fountain Hills.
Please go ahead.
Town of Fountain Hills is excited to announce that ADOT is going to advertise our gap elimination project on the 25th of August. This project has been a long time coming and will provide gap elimination on Saguaro, basically from just south of the town's namesake fountain all the way to Fountain Hills Boulevard. That is one of our primary corridors for not only tourism, but through traffic, and also on our second primary, which is Palisades, which is through the business / mixed use area of Fountain Hills. This is a critical gap elimination and helps us move forward on our active transportation plan and aligns with our general plan and all the rest of our alternative transportation mode plans that the council has adopted.
Hey, thank you. That's very exciting. I have an item from Phoenix. I just want to remind everyone who has a micromobility program or who is looking at starting their own micromobility program. The City of Phoenix continues to host the monthly regional micromobility meetings. If you have an invitation from Anthony Rios Gorola on your calendar, please get rid of it because the meetings are now being hosted by Shiraz Malul. And please email me, or you can email at scooters@phoenix.gov to get on that invitation list if you're not already on it. Right. Are there any other items or updates? Okay, with that, we'll go to the next item on the agenda and the final item on the agenda, a reminder to committee members that our next meeting is scheduled for September 19th, 2023 at 1 p.m. via teleconference. And with no further business, this meeting of the MAG Active Transportation Committee is adjourned at 2:17 p.m. And thank you all so much for hanging in with